Genesis chapter 32. And Jacob went on his way, and the angels of God met. And when Jacob saw them, he said, "This is God's host." And he called the name of that place Manahem. And Jacob sent the messengers before him to Esau, his brother, unto the land of Seir, the country of Edom. And he commanded them, saying, "Thus shall ye speak unto my lord Esau, thy servant Jacob saith thus, I have sojourned with Laban, and stayed there until now, and I have oxen and asses, flocks, and men servants and women servants, and I have set to my lord that I may find grace in thy sight." And the messengers returned to Jacob, saying, "We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him." Then Jacob, greatly afraid and distressed, he divided the people that was with him, and the flocks, and the herds, and the camels, into 2 bands, and said, "If Esau come to the one company and smite it, and the other company which is left shall escape." And Jacob said, "O God, my father Abraham, and God of my father Isaac, the Lord which saideth unto me, Return unto thy country and to thy kindred, and I will deal well with thee. I am not worthy for the least of all the mercies of all the truths which thou hast shewed unto thy servant. For with my staff I pass over this Jordan, and now I become 2 bands. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother, from the hand of Esau, for I fear him, lest he will come and smite me, and the mother with the children. And thou saidst, I surely do thee good, and make thy seed as the sand of the sea, which cannot be numbered for multitude. And he lodged there that same night, and took of that which came to his hand a present for Esau his brother, 200 she-goats, and 20 he-goats, and 200 ewes, and 20 rams, and 30 milch camels with their colts, 40 kine, and 10 bulls, 20 she-asses, and 10 fowls. And he delivered them unto the hands of his servants. Every drove by themselves, and said unto his servants, Pass over before me, and put space betwixt drove and drove. And he commanded their foremost, saying, When Esau my brother meeteth thee, and asketh thee, saying, Whose art thou, and whitherest goest thou, and whose are these before thee? Then thou shalt say, Be thy servant Jacob's. It is present sent unto my lord Esau, and behold, is also he is behind us. And so he commanded the second and the third, and all that followed the drove, saying, On this manner shall ye speak unto Esau, when ye find him, and say ye moreover, Behold, thy servant Jacob is behind us. For he said, I will appease with him the present that goeth before me, and afterwards I will see his face. Peradventure he will accept of me. So went present over before him, and himself lodged that night in the company. And he rose up that night, and took his 2 wives, and his 2 women servants, and his 11 sons, and passed over the ford Jacob. And he took them, and sent them over the brook, and sent them over that he had. Jacob was left alone, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of day. And when he saw that he prevailed not against him, he touched the hollow of his thigh, and the hollow of Jacob's thigh was out of joint, and he wrestled with him. And he said, Let me go, for the daybreak. And he said, I will not let thee go, except thou bless me. And he said unto him, What is thy name? And he said, Jacob. And he said, Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as prince hast thou power with God and with men, prevailed. And Jacob asked him and said, Tell me, I pray thee, thy name. And he said, Wherever it's thou doth ask my name, wherever it is that thou dost ask after my name. And he blessed him there, and Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. And he passed over Penuel, the sun rose upon him, and he halted upon his thigh. Therefore the children of Israel eat not of the sinew which shrank, which is upon the hollow of the thigh unto this day, because he touched the hollow of Jacob's thigh, and the sinew that shrank. Following his narrow escape from Laban in chapter 31, Jacob turns to his caravan southward towards the homeland, but his relief is instantly cut short by a wave of pure terror. He is marching straight into the territory of his brother Esau, the man who swore to murder him 20 years ago. In Genesis 32, this profound psychological and spiritual masterpiece, it tracks Jacob as he reaches the absolute end of his human resources. Stripped of his tricks, trapped against the river, and paralyzed by fear, Jacob is forced into a literal physical wrestling match with the divine that permanently alters his body, his name, and his destiny. Jacob sends scouts ahead to notify Esau of his return. The scouts sprint back into camp with a catastrophic update. We came to thy brother Esau, and also he cometh to meet thee, and 400 men with him. To Jacob, a private army of 400 armed men doesn't look like a welcoming party. It looks like a seek and destroy massacre. Jacob experiences a massive panic attack. He instantly splits from his camp into two companies, reasoning that if Esau wipes out one half, the other might escape. Then, for the very first time in the entire Genesis narrative, Jacob prays a raw, desperate prayer based purely on the humility rather than a marketplace bargain. I am not worthy of the least of all mercies. Deliver me, I pray thee, from the hand of my brother and from the hand of Esau, for I fear him. To de-escalate his brother's rage, Jacob curates a massive multi-tiered bribe consisting of over 550 head of livestock, goats, sheep, camels, cattle, and donkey. He sends them across the river in waves, instructing his servants to tell Esau, they be a present sent unto my lord Esau on behalf of he, and behold, he is behind us. In the dead of night, Jacob wakes up, grabs his wife's handmaids and 11 children, and forces them across the rushing, dangerous waters of Fort Jabbok, a deep, rocky canyon flowing into the Jordan River. Once everyone and everything he owns is on the other side, Jacob steps back across the river and drops a chillingly brilliant literary line, Jacob was left alone. For 20 years, Jacob had been surrounded by wives, children, servants, and herds, and now he has deliberately stripped himself of every single earthly buffer. He's completely exposed in pitch black of desert canyon. The moment Jacob is completely isolated, a figure leaps out of the darkness, and the text states, and there wrestled a man with him until the breaking of the day. This is not a vision or a dream. It's a gritty, grueling, hour-long physical brawl in the mud and the rocks in the canyon floor. Of the canyon floor, who is this mysterious man? As the fight progresses, the identity blurs into a profound theophany, the infinite God taking on human form to confront the ultimate human controller. As dawn begins to break, the divine wrestler realizes that Jacob, driven by sheer stubborn survival instinct, will not yield. So the figure executes a supernatural bypass. He reaches down and touches the hollow of Jacob's thigh, instantly popping Jacob's hip out of its joint. Experiencing excruciating white-hot physical pain, Jacob refuses to lose. He wraps his arms tightly around the figure, locking him into a desperate embrace. The figure demands, "Let me go, for the day breaketh." In ancient theology, it took to look upon the unshielded face of God in the full light of day was fatal to a mortal man. Jacob, realizing that his absolute last chance to secure his life, Esau gasped out of an extraordinary defiant line, "I will not let thee go except thou bless me." Jacob, realizing this is his absolute last chance to secure his life against Esau, gasps out an extraordinary defiant line, "I will not let thee go except thou bless me." The wrestler stops and asks a piercing question, "What is thy name?" Thinking about the immense psychological weight of this question, the last time a patriarch asked Jacob his name was 20 years ago, in chapter 27, when his blind father asked, "Whose art thou?" And Jacob lied, "I am Esau," to get the blessing back, and Jacob had to fake his identity. Now, to get his divine blessing, he must confess his true character. He drops his head and states the truth. Jacob, the schemer, the heel catcher. The divine wrestler completely rewrites his essence on the spot. "Thy name shall be called no more Jacob, but Israel. For as a prince hast thou power with God and with men hast prevailed." The name Israel in Hebrew carries a profound double meaning based on its linguistic roots. God strives and contends, the reminder that God is the supreme actor. He who strives with God, the monument to Jacob's stubborn endurance. Jacob asks the man for his name, but the figure gently refuses, saying, "Wherefore is it that thou dost ask after my name?" Instead, he pours out the blessing directly onto the newly minted Israel. As the sun crests over the mountains of Gilead, Jacob names the local Peniel, which translates directly to the face of God, declaring, "For I have seen the face of God, and my life is preserved." The chapter closes with a beautiful, deeply human image in verse 31. "And as he passed over the Peniel, the sun rose upon him, and he limped upon his thigh." Jacob had to be physically broken by God in order to be spiritually healed. He enters the Jacob Canyon relying on his own manipulation. He exits the canyon relying entirely on his walking staff as the grace of God. He is finally ready to cross the river and stand face to face with Esau, not as a panicked deceiver, but as a humbled prince of God. Wow, it's intense. He wrestled with God. God broke his hip.